I'm Dale Dye. I'm a captain, United States Marine Corps, retired. About the time I was in the 5th grade, I went to the first military school, and I stayed with it all the way through my high school graduation at Missouri Military Academy. There was no money for college. On the 3rd day of January 1964, I was on my way to boot camp. I was 19. Being in the world that I had imagined and had lived sort of vicariously in military schools for so long was, I was in hog heaven. I just excelled. I loved it. Everything that we did, even the most dumb, stupid disciplinary maneuvers that the drill instructors pulled, to me, I saw it. I knew why. I knew what they were trying to produce. I knew what they were trying to do. I was granted the combat correspondent military specialty in the Marine Corps that brought with it orders to Vietnam. And so in 1967, I went to Vietnam, stayed in and out of Vietnam until 1970, did 33 months on the line, was wounded 3 times in combat. I think Vietnam made me what I am today. I saw some really intense stuff in 3 tours in Vietnam. And I think what I discovered is what I inherently believed early on, and that is combat. The business of being on the line where your life is at risk, the business of taking another person's life. These are emotional experiences. Now, you would find people who cry the poor ass and say, well, those are scars. No, they're marks of maturity. You understand what life is really about. You understand how valuable it is, and you understand how quickly it can be taken away from you. And so I think it matured me in a way that if I hadn't had that experience, I absolutely would not have matured in that fashion. I'm not suggesting that every person in America's society or in world society today needs a dose of war. But there is an ethic in it. There is an appreciation for life. There's an appreciation for freedom. There's an appreciation for the service and sacrifice of others that I think comes with it. And I certainly got that from Vietnam. I think I'm another guy who did what many, the majority of Vietnam veterans did, and that's take my lumps, face it, and say, all right, what does not kill me makes me strong, and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make a life for myself. So many of us did. It's a myth. It's a misconception that we were all a bunch of crazy psycho vets and ticking time bombs and so emotionally damaged that we couldn't deal with life. What damaged many of us was not so much the experience at war, but the uncertain nature of the war that we fought and the lack of appreciation for our service and sacrifice. I was a captain with the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune in the early 1980s when the situation in Lebanon blew up. That was my last combat assignment. I served there from 1982 until about the late summer of 1983. At which point I went back to the 2nd Division at Lejeune. And in October of 1983, that unit that I had left in Beirut suffered a horrible suicide bombing, killing 241 young Americans. And that, for the first time in my experience, sort of warped my soldier's heart. Many of those young men who died were people I knew very well and respected. They were a new generation of young Americans who were laying their life on the line and doing so voluntarily and doing so with great spirit, a great selfless devotion to whatever was asked of them. And I appreciated that greatly. And so about that time, I decided, well, you know, it just might be time for me to leave it to younger men who aren't carrying around all the baggage I'm carrying. And it seemed to me that rather than do a half-assed job, leave it. Leave it on honorable terms. Leave it with all the good memories up against one really bad one. And then see if there isn't some way I can continue to celebrate those people I was training. No amount of school, no amount of training is ever going to prepare you for what you eventually want to do, what you eventually can bring to the table, because what you bring to the table in life is part and parcel of what you've eaten in all of those years before you got to the table. All of that baggage, all of that life experience is really what defines us, is really what brings us wisdom, is really what brings us insight. And so I think what I'd say is, take it like it comes.